welcome, welcome. We are here. Welcome to here. My name is Katina Perkins, and I am the Director of Operations with INELDA. So, a few housekeeping. Please take out your cell phones and turn them off. Please, thank you. That would be great. So today I am here to be your MC. I'm excited to be here. I'm from California, and I passed all of those warm states to come here to be with you today. So I made it, and I'm staying. So I love INELDA. I'm happy to be here. First of all, I'd like to let you know about this card. Oh, we have some other guests that you don't see. They are online, streaming. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our online group. So happy that you can join us. I hear there's about 200 to 300 maybe close people online. So it's beautiful, right? Welcome. So happy that you're joining us today. So I'd like to talk about this card. A lot of you got this card when you walked in. So on this card, you will see a QR code. So you can scan that and you'll be able to see our program for today. And then at the bottom, we'd love for you to share your vision for doula care. There is a box in the back, so please fill that out and leave it with us. That would be great. And also for our online folks, you can go onto our Facebook and you can leave a message there on your vision for doula care and also on our Instagram page. So exciting. Thank you. Now I'd like to bring up my friend. Someone that is really near and dear to my heart. His name is Doug Simpson, and he is our executive director with INELDA. Welcome, Doug.
I'm practicing my doula, just being present. And it feels good. It really feels good to be here. For those of you that don't know me, I usually shed a lot of tears, and I wasn't going to address this up front, but you'll see them come throughout. But it does feel really, really good to be here together in community. And for those of you, hundreds, as Katina mentioned, live streaming. So I'll get into my speech. As of today, INELDA has had the privilege of engaging with 9,678, almost 10,000 human beings that have chosen to train and educate with INELDA in seeding death care globally. So we're extremely, extremely grateful for that. Not only are we seeding death care in the United States, but we're also seeding death care in 56 countries globally. So our reach is quite large and around the globe. And many of these doulas that have come through INELDA have gone on to do great things in the field, right? They've gone on to do education, advocacy, providing their own direct care. And so tonight, we honor you. We honor your support and voice that you've led advocating for this movement forward. And while those of us are steeped in this death care, and we've seen the progression in the conversations about death and dying happening more, there's so frequently I'm running into individuals that are like, what is a doula? I don't know what a doula is. I know a birth doula. What can a death doula do for me? So we've got lots of education and public awareness still to do. And so that I think about daily and certainly drives me as a team member in this organization. And we all know the profound impact doulas can have in somebody's circle of care. And that's why we know that our vision for the organization is for individuals to have accessible, equitable, compassionate death care that holistically affirms and supports their end-of-life choices. So tonight, I'm also thankful for the relationships and partnerships we have built together. These partnerships have allowed the unhoused community to begin receiving dignified end-of-life care in Pittsburgh. We have created increased encounters and person-centered care with hospices. And we've been able to provide end-of-life doula care in rural upstate New York. These models not only provide the necessary care, but they also give opportunities for doulas to be part of the delivery of this care. Our other partnerships over the years are serving to educate. From Nielsen Media, a change maker began offering end-of-life doula benefits to their employees, to creating programming with the National Funeral Directors Association, to education offerings being co-created today with the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross Foundation, to our long-standing relationships with Citizen Film and GroundSpark, which will put the film Prognosis in living rooms across America next year through PBS. I'd like to personally thank all of the team members, past and present in INELDA. From each of you, I've learned something. And the organization has evolved because of you. So INELDA seeks and desires to be in relationship with each member of our community long after the initial training. In 2024, we re-envisioned our doula training to have our new INELDA doula approach. This collectively devised approach created a framework where doulas were informed from the principles of self-awareness, the autonomy of the dying, and the dying process. And those principles allowed INELDA doulas to show up globally and to provide care at a local level. Through exploration, doulas are asked to consider gaps in their care, in both physical and social, in order to develop a care model which meets the needs of those they will serve. This approach is activating doulas to create their own death care models wherever they are in the world and within and from their communities. INELDA supports the growth of our community through community of practice to learn and grow. We have from mentoring groups to our emotional support center to creating a clear path for a doula development, from the initial training to certification to becoming an INELDA practitioner continuing education provider. We recently launched our Doula in Residency program and in a partnership with SAGECare that highlights both of these opportunities. Due to systematic structures, disconnection from the dying process, and the lack of death care literacy, those dying around us are often left without a voice and knowledge about choices and options. An end-of-life doula advocates for self-determination, imparts psychosocial, emotional, spiritual, practical care to empower dignity throughout the dying process. As our advisory board member, Pastor Corey Kennard shared, it takes time to spend with somebody who's dying. We know that delivery care systems are overburdened or non-existent in some regions. We understand that caregivers are burned out, and that as a current aging population balloons, there are not enough providers to support the non-medical needs of the dying. So how do we do it? How do we do it? Doulas have time. We have lots of time. We have time to sit with you. We have time to listen to you. We have time to be with you. We have time. Doulas have time. So, as we step into the next decade, we envision INELDA-trained doulas everywhere delivering death care. We need doulas everywhere, and every death care team providing that plans for end of life, teams that support the death and dying of individuals, and teams that care for the body and loved ones after death. We need doulas everywhere. I would say this is a pivotal moment to test our innovative approaches and prepare for the surge ahead, expanding the number of individuals who can access end of life, care rooted in dignity, choice, and humanity. INELDA is a resource with a powerful community of active doulas, global thought leaders, committed team members, strong partnerships in our doula approach. The time is now. The time is now, and our call to action is to mobilize our end-of-life doulas and to fund and reshape death care. This need has always existed, and it's certainly greater today. And it's certainly going to be greater than we can even imagine if we don't take action today. My ask is that each of you consider how you invest in shaping the now and future of death care. Is it time to talk to your loved ones about your own end-of-life wishes? Is it time to become a doula? Is it time to make an impactful donation? As INELDA seeks out to organize greater investment along the strategic collaborations, we're focused on building the infrastructure required to lead the next decade of growth for the end-of-life doula field. Strengthening our core capabilities will allow us to scale responsibly, expand access to culturally affirming care, equip communities worldwide with skill, support, and compassion presence that every person deserves at end of life. So these 10 years have fueled our commitment to foster and create deathcare communities globally. INELDA stands poised with you to shift how we deliver death care. So at this time, I'd like to invite us to listen to a message from our new board president, Dr. Andy Ho, and I know Andy has joined us live stream. After Andy's messages, we'll see a short film, INELDA at 10. Thank you and welcome.
Welcome everyone, my name is Dr. Andy Ho. I'm the board president of the International End-of-Life Doula Association. It is both an honor and a pleasure to welcome you to our 10th year anniversary celebration. Though I'm currently in Singapore and unable to be with you in person, I'm there in spirit, joining you to commemorate this momentous occasion. 10 years ago, INELDA was founded as a non-profit organization with a clear mission to advocate for the presence of end-of-life doula by normalizing death, dying, and grief through education, stewardship, and community advocacy. I want to extend my deepest gratitude to our founders and the dedicated educators who have trained over 9,000 doulas globally, providing compassionate care to countless families and individuals facing mortality. While we have achieved much, our mission remains vital and urgent today. According to the World Health Organization, approximately 56.8 million people need palliative care every single year, but only 14% receives it. This leaves about 48.8 million people without essential care at the end of life. Existing healthcare systems are reaching their limits, especially as we shift towards more home-based and community-centered care models. The demand for end-of-life doulas is more pressing than ever. Building on the foundation laid by my predecessors, my board and I, alongside with the incredible INELDA team led by Douglas, we are prepared to tackle this challenge. We aim to train, nurture, and support more doulas worldwide, creating compassionate communities for those facing terminal illness and their families. Our goal is to ensure that every individual have access to equitable, respectful, and compassionate death care that affirms their humanity and honor their choices. In support of this mission, I'm excited to announce the launch of the INELDA Research Council. This initiative will generate and share vital research to inform our practices, engage in collaborative studies, and explore innovative solutions for end-of-life care. By working with academic institutions and healthcare organizations, we aim to produce insights that will produce and support training programs and advocacy efforts, ultimately influencing policies that integrate doula services into broader healthcare frameworks. As we celebrate this milestone, let's honor the contribution of every doula who has walked this path and those who will follow. The commitment each of us devotes to support each other is what makes our global doula community so impactful. Together, let's strive to transform how society approaches the end of life, ensuring that every individual's journey is met with dignity, love, and compassion. Thank you for being part of this extraordinary community and for your unwavering support. Here's to the next 10 years filled with hope and determination.
I always remember the time my dad's body was taken out of the bedroom and my sister coming to the window hours later, and having in this sound, and I always describe to people as the quiet before a snowstorm. That experience stayed with me. Fast forward to my son's birth in 2017, home birth, born, I look out the window, and once again I hear the silence of before a snowstorm, and the two resonated with me. I remember the first day we heard our son's heartbeat. Our midwife said when she was done accompanying life into the world, she would sit with people as they died. I did some research on INELDA and signed up for the training. I found a place of belonging. I found a place of open conversation about death. I found people that were curious. I found people that were scared. I used to be petrified of death. And so I found this community of people that were approaching it from their own experiences, and I connected in my own way because I had my own story. Fast forward a few months, I reach out to the organization, want to help. Like, what can I do? How can I help? I want to have more impact than just me being a doula in my community. What can I do? And one of the founders was gracious enough to let me join her, and we called it the Cottage. And for the next year, I volunteered there.
The work that INELDA has been doing over the past decade has been tremendously crucial to elevate our competency and the knowledge and awareness towards end-of-life care in the community. INELDA have trained over thousands of doulas who are working across the globe to support people who are facing the end of life and people who are grieving. With increasing complexity of death, with increasing numbers of death, and more families are facing the loss of the loved ones. I think INELDA plays an even more important role moving forward to be able to provide training, supervision, support to doulas who are aspiring to practice in the community.
I think about this one patient. She was in her 90s, a beautiful soul. She had a lot on her mind. And so I said, oh, are you in pain? And she says, every day, every minute of every day. They've offered me medication, but I'm only going to do this once, and I want to experience it. Meaning, she's only going to die once. She said, there's one thing that I have not been able to tell anyone. I said, why don't we write a letter, or you write a letter? And so she dictated it to me, and we ripped it up and everything, and then we just sat, quietly, very comfortable in being silent. She had a little brightness to her eyes. She always had very peaceful eyes anyway, even though she was in a lot of pain. That was it. We said our goodbyes. Off I went, and about an hour and 15 minutes later, her son called me to say that she died. I think that was the last thing she needed to do, that last bit of business she needed to complete.
I've always had an ease with death. Death has never been something I'm afraid of in terms of my own death. Of course, other people's death has struck me down at times, like it does to all of us humans. So I've been present at a few of them before this happened, this introduction to INELDA. The INELDA training really opened up my eyes to what kind of work this is. It's doing one's death work makes our lives more rich and more complete. So instead of ignoring that death exists, why not grab a hold of it and do the work necessary to live a fuller life?
Tim was diagnosed with rectal cancer in the fall of 2022. At that point, when he was diagnosed, it was already stage 4. And for several months, we were hopeful. He was hopeful. He was really, really trying to survive. And we got to a point several months in where it became clear that his time with us was limited and that he was going to die. We have a teenage daughter, and we were obviously navigating this huge thing, and it was overwhelming. It was sad. It was confusing. There were lots of pieces, logistical and practical pieces to consider, as well as some of the bigger questions around how were we going to parent through this? How were we going to spend our time together and approach the time of death itself? There was a point where we called in Bones, and that was really wonderfully supportive. Bones helped us get on the same page and helped us have some of those more difficult conversations, not only just the two of us, but some of the conversations that we had with our daughter, and also some of the conversations that involved communicating with our extended family.
We need more death doulas, and we also need to make sure that people understand the significance of this role. And so the more we talk about the importance of having doulas in place, the more we educate people on what doulas actually do, we must make this a part of the normal process of healthcare. And until that is a part of the normal process of healthcare, people are going to struggle with death in healthcare settings. And so I think we can do a great service to those who come into our care by, upfront educating people and letting them know the importance of it.
Understanding that in the dying process there was a gap. There was a gap in human connection, which sparked this organization, which drove Henry and Janie and Jerry to launch this. And here we are 10 years later, identifying, I'll say, more gaps, complementing other systems as we navigate this death care space and honor people's autonomy, self-determination, wishes, desires at end of life.
One other thing that I really love is that there is a humility in the space, there's a humility in the organization and in the members of it, such that we like to learn about how things can be better, right? So this happens from the core of those who are leading the organization and into the space of serving the community, right? So we're constantly learning how to be better, how to serve better, how to inspire more, how to motivate. We create these spaces of community, of belonging, of supporting the movement from the core out. How we share this and how we learn from those who come to learn from us makes us better people. And therefore, we are contributing to a better humanity.
Lovely. Just beautiful. Thank you. So very proud of that film. And I just want to thank everyone that lent their voices to share their stories and bring things to life for us in that film. So thank you. Also, I'd like to give a special thank you to Mark Changnong and also Mark Ubacek for putting it together. So thank you. Okay, we are going to move on to the next part of our presentation today. And this is our awards. So we're going to start that ceremony off with a short video. Thank you.
Empath has been a tremendous partner in advancing this doula movement and looking at ways to provide better care for their dying clients or patients within their facilities.
My name is Stacy Groff. I'm the Vice President for Care and Connection at Empath Health. My role includes overseeing our global volunteer engagement program for all of Empath Health. We serve more than 30,000 hospice patients annually, and that's more than 1 in 5 in Florida. Empath Health is a not-for-profit full-life care organization composed of 7 hospices and other pieces of the care continuum. Our organizations are rooted in the communities we serve. We are really proud that our trained doulas are a part of our interdisciplinary teams. To date, we've trained more than 50 doulas, and they're active in various roles throughout our programs. They are truly individuals who can flex with many different situations and needs, and they're equipped to deal with some of a more complex patient and family situation, which is key to us providing individualized care at the end of life.
What I've discovered in my relationship with Wilka, she is committed to death care in whatever form that will take, and willing to show up when she's asked or where she's needed.
I'm a transpersonal psychologist, death doula, death activist, grief worker, and many other things. I'm an educator with INELDA. I trained with INELDA in 2017, and I am now also the certification program manager, and I am a proud INELDA team member. La Red Latinoamericana de Acompañamiento en la Muerte y el Duelo, which is the Latin American network of accompaniment in death and grief, is what was born of this great need to find out who else is out there doing this work and how can we support one another. And so the Red comes together with the first 4 doulas of Latin America, which is, one in Ecuador, one in Chile, one in Colombia, and me in Mexico. And so the intention of La Red is really that sort of bringing to the surface that which connects us, and then how can we cross-pollinate so that we can then achieve an evolution of the culture that happens more efficiently, more effectively, and more readily.
If somebody wishes to have a companion with them through their dying process, that choice and the access should be available to everybody in this entire world. So before I bring Stacy up, I just wanted to say how grateful I am for the stories of Doula Mike that he shared in the film, and I think from my time spent with Stacy and hearing from Omni and the mentoring calls, these are happening every day at Empath, right? This is representative of the program that's been put in place at Empath. So I'm thrilled to have Empath's President of Care and Connection, Stacy Groff, with us to accept INELDA's Outstanding Community Partner Award in recognition of not only the integration of trained doulas into its full life care model, but also for Stacy's willingness to share feedback, adjust the program, seek the necessary funding, and a commitment to ensure that doulas are recognized as equal team members. I remember supporting Stacy in May of 2021, and I've seen this program grow and grow under Stacy's leadership. So welcome, Stacy.
And it's purple, which is our color. Thank you. So I'm from Florida. First, I want to know who ordered this weather. It's a little chilly here, but it's beautiful being in the city during the holidays. Thank you so much for this incredible honor. I'm accepting this award on behalf of Empath Health and our entire end-of-life doula team, which is now a group of more than 100 of our volunteers across 7 hospice organizations. And they've truly transformed end-of-life care at life's truly their most tender moments. In October alone, our doulas across Empath Health completed 450 visits to our patients, which is an incredible number, but it was a 200% increase from the prior year, which shows how the program is growing and becoming more popular in our organization. It's not just a statistic, it represents hundreds of families who felt supported, heard, and comforted during one of life's most difficult journeys. End-of-life doulas bring presence, dignity, and peace when it matters the most. They sit at the bedside, hold hands, listen to stories, and ensure that no one faces end of life alone. Their impact goes beyond the patients. It touches families, caregivers, and our entire community. At Empath Health, we truly strive to make each patient's journey individualized. Our doulas are a huge part of this effort, often lending their skill sets to execute whatever matters most to our patients, like you heard Mike say. One of our doulas brought sand and seawater to a patient, which seems like a simple thing, but they lived on a high floor of a condo building that got hit by 3 hurricanes last year. The doula put seawater in one bucket, sand in another, brought it up and let that patient put their feet in the sand again, put their feet in the seawater again. Another doula visited a young patient who had a sudden cancer diagnosis and wrote letters with that patient so that their children would have letters to open at life's milestones after she was gone. These are just a few examples of some of the impact that they've had on those who we serve. To our doulas at Empath, thank you for showing up with grace and heart. To Empath Health, thank you for believing in this work. A special thank you goes to the Tidewell, Suncoast, and Trustbridge Foundations, who continue to financially support our program, and our volunteer engagement team, who are really the ones who make the magic happen, matching these doulas with our patients. Together, we're changing the way people experience the end of life, making it more humane, more compassionate, and more connected. This award belongs to the entire Empath Health team.
As we move on to our second award, the INELDA Pathmaker Award, I'm compelled to share what began as an email to INELDA back in 2019 has flourished into a meaningful partnership and friendship. I've spent time with Wilka in Ecuador, Mexico, Chile, Puerto Rico. In Puerto Rico, I joined the last couple of days of a month-long activation. I was reminded of the importance of holding space as I witnessed communities coming together to talk about death care. I'm moved by, we went to another smaller town, and these children were doing exercises of grief through storytelling and art. So today, I'm deeply thankful that she was able to make this celebration and make the trip. So welcome.
Thank you. Let's see. So yeah, I am grateful too that I can be here tonight. I have been caregiving for my mother for the last 3 weeks, and my mother is watching, I hope. So what can I say? Some of what's in the film, I feel like I have a soul connection with INELDA. Something about coming together from when I trained to those emails I sent that Doug received somehow that led me to be part of this incredible team and this incredible community. I feel so blessed, so supported, so connected, like we are really working together for a big revolution, yes? And this is constant, and we need to keep going because it's urgent, yes? But in any case, what I want to say today, that of course, I always invite any person to contact me directly. I really love to have conversations and to share about my experience in reaching out to communities and how we get there and what we can learn from them and how we bring that back so that we can make everything better. So please take me seriously and do that. But tonight, I want to, again, I can't thank enough Everything Live coming together with this incredible team and community. But I want to dedicate this moment and everything that led to this moment to 3 very important women in my life. And the first one is my mother, who is currently bedbound and in her final phase of life, and who, no matter what her needs were, she insisted that I better come here and receive this award. Yes, so my mother, Olga. And then, because she knew that one of the reasons why coming to New York is always a double treat, because I do work with INELDA, but I also get to see my sister from my entire life, Johanna, who is over here, and who has been navigating a cancer diagnosis, and somehow my public life with this work and this journey have been side by side. And without Johanna informing my experience from the ¿cómo se dice? Intimate place of personal connection and what that means to hold space for a loved one, and at the same time me going out into the world and then discovering all these things and bringing it back and being able to share it with my dear soul sister. I feel like together, Johanna and I have been propelling this forward. Without her, I don't think I'd be the person I am today. Same with INELDA, same with my mother. And the third person I want to dedicate this moment to is my grandmother, my mother's mother, Olga Gomez, who believed, her conviction and passion was that education is the liberation for women, right? So this is a woman who in the 30s and 40s was going into, education against all odds, and I'm wearing her first master's degree graduation ring because she has propelled my obsession and compulsion with education, not just to get it, but to share it. And so she was the chief of the social work department in Brooklyn for many decades, and she was always very quiet about her, ¿cómo se dice? Achievements, thank you. So she, I found, when she died, I found all of her awards under a bed, hidden under a bed. And so this ritual was born of that anything that I would achieve, I would make the point. The ritual started when I would receive it, and then I would have to take it, get it nicely framed, and then put it on the wall. And I have like a whole mural in honor of my grandmother because she instilled this in me, which makes me want to instill it in others. But this is a moment of making it visible and sharing it with the world, that these kinds of convictions that drive us and make us not just survive but thrive, and not just thrive but also share and contribute meaningfully to the community. My grandmother had incredible contributions in all of Brooklyn. Is what we want, and this is also what INELDA does, right? We cultivate that calling and that seed that is planted in people, and then we want to encourage it, and we want to celebrate it. We want to keep supporting it as long as we can, right? So that there can be a difference in the world. And so to all of these women and to all of the doulas out there and all of the people, regardless of gender, this is because of you, for you, and all about you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Now Wilka gets to sit down. Thank you, Wilka. Thank you, Wilka and Stacy, for your contributions. Thank you. Okay, this is moving right along beautifully. So the next thing we have going for you today is this lovely panel of local doulas, people working in end-of-life care, that I would like to bring up. And we're going to be welcoming a conversation of end-of-life care in New York City. It will be moderated by our very own Wilka Roig. And I have 4 lovely individuals to bring up today for this panel. So the first person is Eva Ting with Here to Honor. Welcome. Welcome. Next is Lisa Zeitz. Yes. The program to Accompany and Comfort. Welcome, Lisa. Next is Jane Euler. Present for you. Welcome, Jane. Lovely to see you again. And last but certainly not least, Marni Blank. Begin with the end. Thank you, Marni. We are so excited to hear what they envision for doula care. Thank you.
Hello again. It's wonderful to see you all. So, you know, at INELDA, we recognize that doulas are showing up in so many different ways and in so many different capacities for communities, not just individuals, right? So we think about doulas, and maybe now we've reached a point where people more or less can recognize that end-of-life doulas sit bedside and help with preparation and everything, but we are finding that this calling takes us further, and that it inspires us, and as we are in those spaces, we discover there are other needs, and that there are other gaps, and that we need to find ways to bridge and fill those gaps and, you know, move this whole thing forward. And so today we have this wonderful panel of people who all have had a calling that goes beyond bedside. And so we want to hear from you to start. What led you, or what brought you from that first place of being an end-of-life doula to what you're doing today? And tell us a little bit about what you are doing.
So my name's Eva. It's such an honor to be here tonight. What a wonderful opportunity to celebrate together. So death education was not on my vision board or 5 or 10 year plan, which probably is true for a lot of us in this room. My background has actually been mostly in arts management and events management. I've worked for different organizations, planning large events and doing different art projects. And my most recent work was at this large church in Manhattan that also had a community event space. So I was overseeing all the events and somehow found myself as the default memorial service coordinator. And so I remember going into my first few memorial services with my events planner hat on and my checklists, and realized very quickly that funerals and memorial services were different. The families I was working with were obviously overwhelmed with grief, had a lot of decisions to make, and most of them did not have these conversations before their person died. And so they were trying to figure out how to navigate all these different tasks. And so from there, I began to learn that maybe this wasn't just a situation I was experiencing, that this might be a more universal scenario. And so in 2020, I did training with INELDA, mostly for my own education. But from there, began to wonder what would it look like to really lean into death education. I had started out wanting to create something that would help with funeral planning, but then realized that there's actually a lot of great resources out there. But because we don't talk about death, we don't know these resources exist. And so really started to think about, how do we solve this issue from upstream? How do we proactively learn about what's out there and have the conversations before we need to, and how can that mitigate some of the crisis that happens around death? So that's what I do now. I started Here to Honor, and I don't know if I should talk about it now or wait a little bit. So Here to Honor is a social enterprise, which means we're a company driven by mission, and our mission is cultivating community around end-of-life learning. And we do this through offering different workshops, different classes. We partner with a lot of end-of-life practitioners. We work with different communities and organizations. And our aim is to help people become more death literate, but to do so in community, because ultimately we need one another at the end of life.
Hi, so this is working. My name is Lisa Zeitz, and I feel like I've been doing this since dinosaurs roamed the earth. I am for a different end of this. I am a social worker by training, and my second placement when I was a social work student was in pediatric oncology with a lot of children who were facing the end of life. And when people ask how, you know, in that way, that people cock their heads and say, you know, it's a thing to bring up that people, I say, I often ended up in this because I didn't run the other way. For whatever reason, I've talked about this with colleagues, like what draws us, I don't know, on a personal level. Sometimes, I think Doug alluded to this, it's fear, and you run towards it to figure out how to manage it. So I worked in pediatric oncology, and then I've done a lot. I've worked in a hospice. For a big chunk of my career, I helped co-lead a program called the Treehouse, which was for young families who'd experienced the death of a parent or a child and had surviving children. So a lot of the stuff that was alluded to here in terms of working with kids, storytelling, being together in community with other people who get it, was really the foundation of that program, and it was my heart and soul for a very long time. Throughout this process, I also taught at Smith School of Social Work. They have an end-of-life certification program. So I have I didn't move as some of these guys did from other places. I consolidated my clinical work, but we were just talking about it, I have to say that, and so now I'm the clinical director of a program with a long name called the Doula Program to Accompany and Comfort. We will talk about it a little bit more. We're a little non-traditional. We use the term doula volunteer to distinguish that from death doula. This is a program where we really carefully select and train and mentor in an ongoing way doula volunteers who are non-clinical professionals, 25 years and older, who do a very beautiful training that I can say that because it was not developed by me. I inherited it and we tweak it, allowing people to learn how to truly accompany people who meet two criteria: that they are facing their end of life, which is a pretty broad category for us because we don't have to bill insurance, we don't charge for this. So we have outliers who live 8 years. I mean, that's truly an outlier, or people live, so it's not a specific hard and fast hospice criteria. So they are facing the end of life, whatever that means, and they are isolated, which is also somewhat flexible. We always say that to be alone in New York or in a city like this in our vertical villages it's a different kind of experience, when people are, and also that New York is a particular kind of place, a city of seekers, and people often come here from somewhere else, whether it's for acceptance or inspiration or a career path, and they leave behind a lot of their support system. So a lot of people end up being alone in, I'm a looker in windows in New York, those stories. My husband says he doesn't, which I've never believed, but you know what I mean, the lights behind and so behind what our doula volunteers is, they walk into those apartments where people have been alone, and so after they do their training, we match them with a doula client and sometimes we match based on language or culture, whatever the requests are of the client, location, because their role is to visit their client once a week for as long as they live. And often, and that can take whatever form and whatever non-judgmental awareness. So sometimes people want to talk about, the coulda, woulda, shouldas, the intensity of their grief, and sometimes they want to play boggle or watch Laurel and Hardy movies, and our doula volunteers just go wherever they go. And so we have artists who are paired with artists, and they draw together. We have people who listen. We have a lot of actors for some reason. We have a lot of listening to musical theater. I mean, in New York, too, people will be what they miss is going to museums and musicals. And so we bring the life of the streets into people's homes, and it's a beautiful thing. We don't have, we don't have any means testing. We don't try. We are constantly fundraising for our work. And, but as I've said, this is part of a continuum of care. People can't get enough support. So our doula volunteers do not preempt having death doulas, hospice, volunteers. I mean, the people cannot have enough at this point in life. And so it was lovely to be invited into this because we're not really part specifically of the INELDA world, but we do this work in a different way. And it's really wonderful to hear what's going on in the bigger world of New York City end-of-life care. So thanks for having us.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jane Euler, and I am co-founder of Present for You. We are a serious illness companion and end-of-life doula organization, And we're actually, I'm kind of an outlier here. We're not in New York City yet. We're hoping to be. I came up on the train this morning from from Washington, D.C., and I live in Virginia. And so I support folks at the bedside doing sort of traditional doula work that we have learned, with our INELDA training. What I didn't expect to be doing is running a business at this point in my life. I retired from a 32-year career in information technology, would you believe, and got into this space. And it fills my heart to be at the bedside with families and those that are dying. So I have 5 doulas in our little organization in Northern Virginia. And we have a contract with a hospice, and we are actually being paid to provide doula support to their hospice patients. And we just had a milestone, 2,000 visits. So that was a big thing in Northern Virginia, and we're hoping to kind of replicate that here in New York City in this, take what we've learned the past 3 years and bring it into this more dense urban environment. And we are a benefit LLC, so we have a mission like INELDA for accessibility and to help with inequity. So we're trying to push that as well in this city. So we're hoping to connect and to collaborate with those that are here. So hit me up. But the other thing is, Doug mentioned about doulas everywhere, and our sort of tagline has been since we started Present for You is everyone deserves a doula. And I believe that. I believe the medical system is missing a big part of what it means to age, serious illness, palliative, hospice, and doulas can help bridge that, can fill in the gaps. So thank you all.
Hi everyone, I'm Marni Blank, and I got into this work from a very roundabout path. I was a lawyer turned entrepreneur, and I had started a business with my sister. I was at a work event in 2018 and got a call from a hospital in Massachusetts that my mother had been in a serious car accident. And the first thing I thought, other than was she okay, was I have a lot of her important paperwork sitting on my desk that she had given me that I had not signed or notarized. I'm smart, I'm a lawyer, I know how important these things are, and I had a mental block around dealing with paperwork that had to do with her incapacity or death, and so I hadn't done it. And so before getting to the hospital, I had to do some of these things. And she ended up surviving, but in the ensuing months of figuring out how to be a caregiver from afar while running a business of my own, I felt incredibly overwhelmed and alone. And I wish that I had had someone to sort of support me along my journey. And it really got me thinking about, well, this is going to happen again, and it's going to end with one of my parents dying at some point, and how am I going to feel prepared for myself? So I ended up going to Death Doula training in 2020, really more to get a sense of what it is going to mean for me and my own. And I'm of an age where everyone I know is going through these sort of things. And so I started my business officially in 2022, really for getting, using the practical part of my experience as a lawyer and melding it with the emotional parts of doulaship. And what I quickly realized was that, after the funeral, after the casseroles stop coming, families are left with having to deal with a ton of paperwork and logistics that no one is taught how to do. It is basically a full-time job on top of, whether you are in the working world, whether you are just grieving at home, whether you are a parent or dealing with another life situation. The average person is dealing with about 100 tasks after the loss, and it usually takes about 12 to 18 months to get through a probate process. And many people think that the attorney does this work for you, but you will quickly learn that the administrative tasks fall on the grieving family. And when you are in grief, it is really hard to be dealing with logistics. And when you are just in logistics mode, it is really hard to be in your grief. And so how can we be creating a space and, talking about this continuum of care that, going from end of life to death to after, how are we supporting families throughout the process? And so I begin with the end, both to help people before, but really support families after. And when you see what happens when a family hasn't had these conversations in advance, when they haven't gotten their paperwork in order, when you don't know the passwords to the computer or the phone, you quickly realize how important it is to be having these conversations in advance, and how we need to be, supporting people to have these conversations that are uncomfortable but vitally important. And so I help create a roadmap of all the things that need to be done based on people's individual circumstances, and guide them through the process and take as many of those tasks off their plate as possible so that they can focus on healing, on their grief, and getting back to a life that's not just about the paperwork.
Thank you. It's really so amazing to see and hear how, from something that provokes us perhaps personally, or that touches us or our community or our loved ones in a very direct way, can spark all of these amazing things that we can be doing. And the other thing that I find really inspiring is as we listen to different people, which I always invite us to share where we come from, what led us there, and what we're doing, and how far we can go, what are our limitations and what are our successes, so we can learn from each other and get inspired, we realize that regardless of where we are and what we are doing, we are also working together towards something. Yeah? And so, as you at some point said, what would it look like, right? This question of like, wait a second, we could make this accessible, we could make this more practical, more available, right? It leads us in very different directions. And in a way, I think every doula probably could have some vision and some awareness and some insight about something that is also needed. Yeah? And so what would it look like, right? So what would be this vision that we could hope for Deathcare, for how doulas show up, how our communities might be better served? I know that's really broad, but
I'll say from our point of view, the social safety net in this city is filled with, giant Swiss cheese holes. And the big roadblock, and what I sort of am here for, is really, there's such need out there, and we have this speed bump between all the people who need us and us. And for us, it's not about capital, it's really about, case managers and social workers and people who work in public housing, or whatever, or senior housing, whatever they're doing, being so overwhelmed with just getting from Monday to Tuesday that we literally have a one-page referral form, and getting that done can feel like, hiking Everest. And so for us, it's like we desperately know the need is there, and we just need to, we have, one of the other things we do is we have a partnership at Bellevue, which is the big public hospital in New York, big crazy, and we have doula volunteers that go in every day of the week with a list of names of people in palliative care beds who don't get visited. And sometimes people stay in Bellevue for a very long time for medical needs, but very often they stay there because they don't have any place else to go, because the shelter system in New York doesn't have, it's medical facilities that can accommodate people who have end-of-life illnesses. And so for for us as an organization, the idea is, how do we get from the need to the people who really want to meet it? And not just us, we're small, but all of it. What does that look like, and how do we support, and I know your organization does that too, like how do we support the people who are doing all the other stuff? And know that having a doula volunteer or a death doula can only enhance the care, and we're not getting in their way, as I think we are really supplementing, and we can all work together. So I think that's what we see, is that the system is just completely maxed out, and there's so little, room for anything that seems, and sometimes this is seen as a luxury, which I know none of us feel like it is, but that is kind of how it plays out, and we want to change that.
I appreciate what you said about the safety net, and I think that's very true. And I think that's also an image that really sort of inspired me at the start of Here to Honor, is what does it look like to create this net of connections and support in this city? And one of the things we talk a lot about at Here to Honor is how do we reimagine the modern village? Back in the day, right, you kind of knew everybody. And the best case scenarios of deaths that I've heard from friends and, other family members is when you knew the people, there was trust. The funeral director was the one that's done several generations in this town, right? Or the doctor was your brother-in-law, or there was some kind of trust there. And so what does it look like to cultivate those kind of relationships? What does it look like to reimagine the modern village and the ways that we care for one another in an increasingly technological and digital and global age? We have to include the things that technology can bring as well. And so some of the ways we try to do that is we think about it from a very big picture sense, right? The practitioners, the medical care workers, the doctors, the nurses, the social workers, the lawyers, the financial planners, they're all part of this village, as are my neighbors, my friends, my family, the people in my faith community. And so there is redefining what relationship looks like. There is intentionality that is needed. And there is, I think, space needed to give us opportunities to connect and to share. Everybody has something to share in this conversation. Everybody has something to learn, right? And so a lot of the work that we do and what we hope to see is more of those spaces where sharing happens in resources, sharing happens in experience and expertise, and we really reimagine that modern village in New York City and in every city and in every corner of the world.
I think one thing to add to that is that we need to be reimagining how our workplaces show up for people in grief. That we can go all day about 3 to 5 days for the loss of a loved one is woefully inadequate, but that is not enough time to do anything, let alone this extra work after the death. And so we really need to be advocating in our workplaces for getting more bereavement leave, but also getting that support when it's the caregiver stage beforehand. And after a loss, how are there employee benefits that are being added in that are supporting people after a loss through grief and through the practical administrative tasks. And we will find that, and I've talked to many of people who, when their workplaces are supporting them, when they really feel heard, listened to, and supported through the death of a loved one, you're more likely to, stay loyal to that company and be a productive member of that workplace, as opposed to people who are left to fend for themselves. Many people do not last, a year after the death of a loved one because of that. And so I think it's reimagining our communities, but our communities are also, where are we showing up in our workplace, half our day? So, yeah.
And I feel like as a doula in Northern Virginia, I am part of the community, and I am a resource. And I'm always speaking at different places and talking about this and referring people to personal referrals, that I've worked with. So being a doula is being part of the community. But think we need to even go beyond that and perhaps systematize doula care within, for serious illness and end of life. In my little world, when we started Present for You, I aligned with two other gentlemen. It's three of us co-founders, and we didn't really know what direction to go, but we knew doulas could be effective. Where can they be effective, and how to use them? We ended up in the hospice space, but it only because we aligned with a hospice and we got this contract, and it's gone great. It's gone very well. But why not, have doulas in the hospitals, or even have a doula? 2 doula visits after you discharge from the hospital, or a doula in oncology office, or let's make it work within the system, because I think we can be helpful in the system, and I think the system is unprepared for all of us. I'm baby boomer here, and I'm going to need some help, but I don't want medicalized help. I want human help. So I think doulas are really in a really good position to be that support and fill in those gaps.
So this brings up for me the question of how, and I know that you all are, how are you activating this in your communities?
Well, we do a lot of learning opportunities. We have things that are open to the general public, so a lot of different workshops, and we partner with a lot of practitioners who bring their expertise into those places. We look for practitioners who love to teach. Not everyone likes to teach, right? And shout out to Emma, one of our team members back there. And we love working with death doulas. I know, having gone through the death doula training, working with death doulas, that it can be a lot to do your practice and also constantly try to get the word out and to find people and to educate. So our hope is that we are a bridge in a lot of ways. We work with a lot of death doulas. We work with Marni. We've worked with, Daphne, several people in this room. And what we do is we help create these learning opportunities. We help connect the practitioners and the doulas to communities where the help is needed, where the education is needed, and to cultivate that learning together, to strengthen those relationships within the community, but also with the practitioners. So there's both peer relationships that are being strengthened, as well as relationships with practitioners such as doulas. And we've found ourselves working with a lot of organizations that already serve specific communities. My work was with a church, and that's where a lot of my connections were. And so we've been working with a lot of churches in New York to help them better equip and support their clergy and their community leaders. We've also found ourselves in a space working with a lot of organizations, working with family caregivers, and so bring resources and support. And our hope is that, when that person who's gone through this education with us, having done different workshops, have a need, they will have a person in mind. They don't have to Google. They already know a doula. They already know a lawyer, right? That is that community aspect. So that's one of the ways that we're trying to chip away at this.
We need this. That's what we do this, and we do this in Zoom boxes constantly. We go into social service organizations. We go into faith communities. We go into public housing. We go into... And what has been hard is what we would really like to do is have at least a couple of other partnerships like we have. Our Bellevue, partnership started in 2010. I'm loath I didn't talk about, we are sort of the grandmothers of this. This program was started in 2001. We're about to be 24 years old. And it was really the first time that the word doula was used in relationship to the end of life. Phyllis Farley, who started it, was a philanthropist in the birth doula space, and she realized that philosophy could extend to death doulas. So for us, this is how, but getting the word out and making this as easy as possible, as you're saying, so that people who are in need of this, whether they're in a community or in their apartment, have an easy access to this so that it shouldn't be one more thing on their overly full plates. That this person comes in, and what we find is once a community or somebody has a doula volunteer, they think, this, it changes everything. So, because very often our doula volunteers are the only non-medical people, or maybe the only people going in to visit people regularly. So even though our doula volunteers don't do hands-on care, they see changes in cognition, they see black eyes, they see, need, and then we then interface with whoever's referred us and get things changed, and so for us, we just keep, we're sort of ringing the bell, getting out into the community, letting people know that we're there. And it's easy. We try to meet people's needs as quickly as possible. And the doula volunteers are really just kind of wonderful human beings. And so once they get out there, then that's kind of all the advertising we need. But it's a big city, and right, you get to know one clinician and then they move. Right? It's really, there's a lot of job openings in this, if anybody, and there's also a lot of movement, and so it's a constant re-education, re-engagement, outreach model. So that's why for the people who are on the, just feel free to get in touch with us, and we can do this work in conjunction with organizations that are doing similar things. We have doula volunteers in homes that have a SAGE volunteer and a home health aide and maybe hospice care. The more the merrier, really, for people who are on their own and dealing with the end of their lives. So,
I feel like, how can anyone not know we exist? Because I feel like I'm talking about it all the time, and it's kind of a running joke within our company that, I have said from the very beginning, I'm not a marketer. I don't want to be a marketer. I want to be at the bedside, and now I'm running the company and I'm marketing. So, right. But the more that we talk about it, the more that we do presentations, and we need to get out of our space. We don't want to be in an echo chamber here, into different aspects of this. Like I think this is a great group to see, how all of this can work together. But it's a challenge. It needs full-time people to really be talking about this a lot, to really. And I keep saying we need, like a famous person, to bring light on the subject.
Well, Rainn Wilson has said that he's planning on being a death doula, so we're starting to get them. Yeah. The other thing I'll say is, when I'm educating other professionals, which I think is very important for getting the word out, is not just thinking about, the run of the mill, but also related fields. Like I do a lot of presentations to therapy groups because they're listening to people who are struggling with being a caregiver or the grief or the death. And so thinking about who else is in that orbit, that circle of care that are in people's lives that could be good to be thinking about. And then, what you've both alluded to is sort of really being curious about who the community is. In this city specifically, we have a ton of solo agers, people who, by choice or by circumstance are finding themselves aging alone and really need this extra support, or have family who live across the country and just need more boots on the ground. And so also doing education to these specific groups that might need more assistance and support as they age or as they get sick. And so, Eva and I are, collaborating in January on a thing on solo aging, and, I just think that also, catering to people who really need that extra support.
Hi, I'm so inspired because it's like every little thing that we can do really counts. And I don't know about you, but I can only speak for myself that there are times when I've given my all and I've done everything I can and I still feel like, what difference is this making? It is making a big difference, and it starts this way. Change starts this way. It doesn't start with changing everything and magically one day later everything is different, right? It starts with what we can respond to and what we can be present for and what we can contribute. And so all of this passion that is sparked in every person here and who is watching about there's a need here, something needs to be done, do it, right? Because that's how we make change. And in these small ways, somehow every person that we can have an impact with, it sort of ripples, yes? And then it somehow, not just that we will, somebody else will hear about what we've done, but also just from the inside out of the person, there's a change that is gonna benefit somewhere out there. And so I'm going to invite some closing remarks. Anything else that you'd like to add before we close our time together for now?
Well, I'll start on this side. What I love is that there are so many, from what I've learned from the community, is that there are so many different little niches within the end-of-life doula world. People who are doing all different kinds of incredible things and focusing on different people, communities, types of support, whether it's ritual, whether it's sitting bedside, whether it's after loss support. There's a need for all of us, and so the more that we can know about each other, to collaborate, to be able to refer, to be able to support each other, but know that there's someone for everyone and there's a need for all of these little pieces. And so I love being in this community because it's so inspiring to see what people are doing.
Yes, exactly what Marni said. But also, thank you for inviting me as sort of an outlier from DC area, and let's connect and let's do some events together here in DC, and I keep saying that, here in New York, and work together. Thank you.
And not to, belabor, but for us, because we work kind of in isolation, this isn't a community we've been part of, and so most of all to say thank you for welcoming us into this space, and it's very important for us to know, to be educated about what is going on, and even though our doula volunteers are slightly different from kind of the definition of whatever, your death doula, I think that it's really wonderful for us to work in community and to identify, the needs all over the country are incredible, but the needs in the city are huge, and we all need to work in concert together. So it's with a lot of gratitude that we feel welcomed into the INELDA family. So thank you.
Thank you for all the work that you do. Thank you for all the ways that you show up. We're all part of communities. We're all part of an ecosystem. And, everyone needs a death doula. Everyone should train as a death doula because this work makes us better humans. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, panel. New York City, how are we feeling? And online, how are we doing? My father would be very excited to hear me say we are in the 9th inning, baseball fan. So nice to hear from everyone. I am considering coming to New York more often. After that panel, I'm inspired. Just call me between May and September, and I'll be here. How's that? Okay. I'll get to our final piece of our presentation this evening. And I can't say many words about this person because she'll choke me up. But I would love to bring up our Director of Education, Omni. She is my favorite, Omni Kitts Ferreira. Please, please, please come here. Come here, lady. We do almost everything together. Omni says what we're doing, and I say, okay, how are we doing that? How are we doing that? Here she is, Omni. Thank you.
I love you, Katina. Hi, everyone. This has been just stunning to hear from everyone and all these different perspectives. And we are in the 9th inning, as Katina said, so I will be brief and succinct, but I am introducing a partnership that we have just really built together with SAGECare. We created a new course called Affirming the Journey, Inclusive Death Care Training for Doulas. And this was really a partnership because the need to deepen culturally sensitive care, to be able to support LGBTQ plus people and their histories and their needs is really, it's a personal thing. We want to make it personal. We want our doulas to be really prepared to sit with people and their unique experiences. So we made a little video, Sadia Abjani and I, who co-created and really brought this forward. So we'll have you watch this. It talks a little bit about the course for doulas. Hi everyone, my name is Omni Kitts Ferreira and I am the Director of Education here at INELDA. I am sitting with Sadia Abjani, who is the Director of Training and Instructional Design with SAGECare. And she's here to tell us a little bit about our new partnership, our course called Affirming the Journey, Inclusive Deathcare Training for Doulas. Hi, Sadia.
Hi, Omni. Thanks so much for having me.
It is always my pleasure. So why was this training important to SAGE?
So SAGE and INELDA share a long-standing partnership. We've worked together through the National Resource Center on LGBTQ plus aging and collaborated on quite a few projects and programs together. So SAGECare, which is devoted to providing training and cultural competency services to care providers across the continuum of care, everything from financial planning services, rehab services, all the way to assisted living, nursing home, hospice, and end-of-life care. That partnership just felt quite natural. INELDA, you are the experts at what you do, and coming together to work on an LGBTQ plus older adult specific course for our end-of-life doulas seemed like just an obvious kind of connection and partnership.
Yeah. It felt incredible to be able to provide doulas with continuing education through this course, to be able to provide culturally sensitive care, and to also just begin to learn more about the resiliency of the LGBTQ plus community. So what is one thing that you think, because there's many, but what is one thing that you think a learner in this course, a doula in this course, will walk away with?
There's quite a bit that the learner walks away with. So of course we talk about historical context, we speak about facts and figures, common issues that come up when providing services to an LGBTQ plus older adult. But I think the most powerful thing that a doula will walk away with is an understanding that the LGBTQ plus older adult community has experienced discrimination at the hands of the healthcare system, as many of us do who are part of minority identities. However, it's created a beautifully brilliant and vibrant resilience within our community. So as a doula is working with an LGBTQ plus older adult, they're not working with a victim, they're not working with someone who requires a helping hand. Instead, they're working with an individual who is vibrant, who is resilient, and who deserves companionship and partnership. That's another reason why working with INELDA was such a no-brainer for us, because that's the tact that you take for everyone that you work with. And we're so honored and pleased to be a part of this learning journey.
Thank you so much. Last question. Taking this training, how do you feel like doulas will impact the populations that they are serving?
Oh, in so many ways. So many LGBTQ plus older adults are aging in isolation. They're aging without companionship. They're aging without biological or legal family to take part in their care. They're aging with potential trauma. They're aging with lack of access to resources due to financial issues or economic discrimination. And so a doula can approach this situation, can walk into this situation and be the support system for an individual who has probably been in fear for quite a bit of their life that they're going to age alone. And no one wants to age alone. No one wants to face those moments alone. So a doula becomes not just a companion, but a partner, a lifeline, and gets to be there in those moments and allow our LGBTQ plus older adults to age and share their journey and share their story before they pass on.
Yeah. Well, we certainly at INELDA hope that all of our doulas will invest in this beautiful training so that they can provide really dignified care to LGBTQ older adults. I want to thank you for the partnership in designing this and working through this. Is there anything else that you wanted to say?
We at SAGE are so proud to be partnering with INELDA. Congratulations on 10 truly phenomenal and remarkable years. And I wish you 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 more. We are all in this community so enriched and so bettered by the work that you're doing.
Thank you. And I hope the 20, 30, 50 years we are walking alongside each other.
Absolutely.
All right, we're down to the final words, the final words. And as I was preparing the closing remarks tonight, I did some calculations, and from the first training in September of 2015 to our 229th training that starts this Thursday, we've started a movement. And we haven't started the movement. You've been part of that movement and a global community, and we invite you in your spirit, in your experience, in your wisdom to see Deathcare with us. And as we're approaching death together, and now is the time we need to invest in our communities. Doulas can lead the way with your partnership and collaboration. Consider all the ways you can make a difference. We invite you to keep learning with us, creating spaces for conversation and dialogue, and by donating to INELDA. Around the room, there are cards with QR codes to donate, and on your live stream page, there's a donate button. We're grateful to one of our INELDA trained doulas for offering a generous matching gift of $2,500 tonight. Thank you. We look forward to being in touch. Thank you for all being here in person and in live stream, virtual world, and celebrating this moment with us. We appreciate all of you. Good night.
Great. I'd like to welcome everyone to join us in the back to finish out this evening with some refreshments and some light appetizers. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being online, and have a good evening.